the many issues that we need to consider, but I'm just going to look at the core issues that we have in terms of what exactly the agenda is and how or who should be driving it. And I start here first with a quote that I want you all to take note of, because this speaks to the heart of the issue of the sustainability agenda and driving a clear-cut roadmap for Africa. And it's from the CEO of Unilever, Patrick Sesko. It said, this agenda of sustainability and corporate responsibility is not only central to business strategy, but will increasingly become a critical driver of business growth, which in other words includes innovation. I believe that how well and how quickly businesses respond to this agenda will determine which companies succeed and which companies fail. In my opening remarks yesterday, I made mention of the clear-cut difference between organizations that are doing something and organizations that will stay the test of time. And what really differentiates them is their creativity and the ability to change as the market changes, as they relate to their stakeholder, and how the market wants them to run. And I think this is what the quote is also talking about. And there are two ways to look at it in terms of the agenda. And I said there are two clear-cut agendas that we're talking about under one agenda. The people agenda, which includes developing, engaging, and attracting employees through real community and social projects. And in this case, we're looking at who are the people themselves within the businesses. And again, speaking to one of the comments I made earlier today about putting the humanness. And I think that's one of the things that, taking us back again, when Martin was talking about why we want to do the labeling for products in Africa. It's to put the humanness to everything that we're talking about. Because more and more and more, and I think it feeds also to what Dr. Olubas talked about, where we want to do things and there's no empirical evidence, no data for you to test the things that you're doing. There's no humanness to most of the policies that we bring out. And of course, with some of the things that organizations do, both in the public and private sector, there's almost always the lack of humanness to it. So that's the part that is the people agenda. And then, of course, the sustainable business agenda, where we talk about businesses maximizing the impact of engaging in society. Again, it is no longer about doing business. It's no longer about profit. It's no longer about the shareholders. It is about maximizing the impact that your business has on society. And then, of course, the role that society plays in keeping you in business. I think it's important to clarify that intersection, because more often than not, it is, business, the business of business is business, so we're here to do business. But then we always forget that if the people, for example, do not exist, who buy your products or your services or for whom you do the business, then there is no need for a business. So that clear-cut intersection needs to be clarified in defining the agenda. And then, of course, here I'm trying to define what this agenda is. And here I'm saying the sustainability agenda begins with making a commitment to incorporating social, environmental, economic, and ethical factors into strategic decision-making. And this cuts across. It is not a private sector thing. It cuts across. When we talk about decision-making, we're talking about it in terms of particularly government policies. And we will see this as we go ahead in terms of who the key players are in driving the sustainability agenda. It extends to evaluating how these factors affect the society, including all its stakeholders, and what risks and opportunities these factors present. Government and business leaders who operate sustainably recognize that these factors interplay and they affect their core business strategies. Now, when we talk about business, more often than not, we always look at it from the private sector point of view. But government is business. There are certain government services that we make use of and that we pay for. So government is business. And so the issue of sustainability is also very core in the things that the government does. And here I said the players. So we'll be looking at who are the people we think should be the ones driving the sustainability agenda on the continent. First is government, and I think one of the points that Ibrahim Salau brought up was Agenda 21. Agenda 21 is a UN, I can't even remember the organization, UN Conference on Environment and Development in 1992 came up with this Agenda 21. And the idea was to have government engage practically on the issue of sustainable development. Now, one of the major issues was clearly a problem from the beginning. And it still speaks back to the issue of voluntary versus compliance. Agenda 21 was voluntary, and it's still very, very voluntary. And the key things that Agenda 21 was looking at was it was cut into 4: social and economic dimensions, conservation and management of resources for development, strengthening the role of major groups within the society. So you have the NGOs, you have some players within the private sector, and then of course it was also looking at the means of implementation. But the problem clearly from most of the analysis and evaluation that has gone into Agenda 21 was the fact that it was voluntary, and governments could say, yes, we all sign up to it. In fact, during the Rio Plus 20 in last year, all the governments again said they complied with Agenda 21. And what is Agenda 21 talking about? It's a non-binding, voluntarily implemented action plan of the UN with regard to sustainable development. It is an action agenda for the UN, other organizations, government, and all of that. And the 21 in it actually refers to the 21st century. The idea really was that in these different core areas, government will be committed to ensuring that issues of sustainable development, issues of sustainability in their policies were clearly defined and clearly stated.